guys, I hope you are all well and welcome back to Mental Health Mondays. Today we're going to be talking about living by yourself when you have a mental illness. Living by yourself can be great, but it also can make you feel very, very lonely and also kind of exacerbate a lot of your symptoms of mental health. I wanted to talk about my experience and also my tips on living alone. So this may be if you live at uni by yourself, or if you, like me, just live in a flat by yourself. So a bit of a backstory about me, for those of you who don't know, my ex basically moved in with me for like 2 years, up until about 5 months ago. So like when I first moved into my own place away from my parents, he had always been here. And although I got a sense of living alone, I definitely did, because I work by myself, so I was alone all day, and it was always my place. It was never like shared. When we broke up, it was definitely an adjustment for me. However, I had made the decision to break up, so I guess for me the experience has been positive, because I've realized that I do actually really enjoy living by myself. It kind of like forced me to have my own back and like pick myself back up, you know, when I needed to, because you have no one else to do that for you. Before, I could have just asked my ex to do things for me, and that's what you do in relationships, like you do stuff for each other. But I feel like I use like, oh, I'm really anxious today, can you go and do this for me, as an excuse a lot of the time. Whereas now, like, tough shit, like I have to go out and I have to do it for myself. So I feel like it's been a good learning exercise for me. The first kind of taste and experience I had of living alone was when I went to uni for all of 3 months, and back then I was not in the headspace to be able to live alone. I mean, I was in halls, so I was in a flat with other people, but I wasn't eating, so I didn't cook for myself, and my mental health was not in the place that it is now. So for me, although the freedom was great at first, I then left uni and went back home. My current state is that I live entirely by myself. I own the flat that I live in. I work for myself as well, which is a lot. Like, having to live by yourself and work for yourself when you have a mental illness can be difficult, but I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on my BPD, and I'm actually, like, when I look back at it, I'm so proud at actually how, sometimes I'm like, how have I got myself into this situation? Because I really, like, it's kind of just, I've fallen into it. It's not been like a massive thing for me, which I guess is really good. When I googled this to do some research for this video, this question came up: is living by yourself harmful to your mental health? And although there have been studies to prove that this might be the case, I guess due to loneliness, I truly believe that it is possible to live a happy and fulfilled life by yourself. So I just kind of wanted to disprove that and also give you guys hope. It takes time to learn to adjust, like, how much things cost, and adult life and owning your own flat is expensive. Now my anxiety has shifted into real life, like, oh shit, if I can't pay this bill, then I could lose my home. Like, it's more real, I guess. But I don't spend my time worrying about that, because it's not healthy. When you're an adult, you have to balance your social life, you have to balance seeing your family, your friends, your working life, doing stuff for fun, staying on top of housework. There are so many different like categories that just you get opened up to, and it is hard to like keep them all, like, you know, balanced all of the time. One thing I really noticed, this not necessarily with mental health, although my mental health was affected greatly by this, was living by yourself when you're ill and your parents live 5 hours away, so they can't just pop over and, like, you know, look after you. And I didn't want my friends coming over because I didn't want them to catch anything. It's probably the most lonely I have felt, because I was physically unable to get out of bed and do anything except lie and think. I almost had no energy to fight off the negative negative thoughts. Usually I'm pretty good at staying on top of it, but I was just like, all of the negative thoughts overwhelmed me. So then, and I guess some like Sunday evenings are the most lonely that I feel, and like weekends where I don't make plans. But then again, sometimes I'm out with friends and I just wish I was at home alone. Sometimes when I'm home alone, I wish I had friends over or just someone to chill with. Like, I do miss living with my family sometimes and coming back to like a really busy household, because there's 6 people in my family. Like, there was always stuff going on, and when I come home here it's like just quiet, and it's nice to have your washing done and your meals cooked for you, etc. But after a while, like after being at home, well, I don't really call it home because they moved to the Lake District and I've never actually lived there with them, but after being there for a while, I do crave my own space. So that's how I know that I've made the right decision. And plus, living at home, I was never allowed guys to stay in my bed because my parents are super religious. So now I can have whoever I want over whenever I want. Not that I ever really use that to my advantage. So yeah, when I weigh up the positives and negatives, that definitely like having to pay all these bills and having all the stress of like adulting is definitely worth having my own place. So my tips for living alone are: Number 1, plan your week. On a Sunday or a Monday, I plan my week out, I look at my week, and I can see exactly what I've got going on. So I'll split this into the different categories like work, personal, fun, etc., and make sure I've got good enough balance in there. But you know, sometimes in my week work will take over. Sometimes I'm, you know, my friends are only around that week, so I take time off work to see my friends in the day. Luckily, like, I have a job that allows that. I've got this happiness planner which I've recently started using again. I'd completely forgotten about it. Before, I just used a normal notebook. So I have my calendar on my phone, and also I find it really helpful to do like it physically and write it down. But this is so good. Like, I love how this is laid out. So this is what I did last night because I was stressing about my week. A weekly reflection of last week and then goals for this week, and they've laid it out in time management, financial, work goals, personal goals, and then rewards at the bottom, which is so important. With adult life, it can be very stressful and you can have all these different categories, but it's so important to make time for yourself and reward yourself and have fun. And I'll plan like my meals and like I have like a shopping list. I use my Alexa for that. It's so useful for the shopping list. Tip number 2 is don't be a hermit. So it's so easy when you live by yourself to just sit in all the time and watch Netflix by yourself. And although this can be great sometimes, it's not good for your mental health. You need to have a balance. And like sometimes I'll get to it where I've made plans and then I just really can't be bothered to go. But like 9 times out of 10, I'm so glad that I have gone. It's a lot easier if you do have a partner, although I do actually, like now being single, find it really beneficial to me because it forces me to make the effort with people, whereas before I would spend all the time with my partner, and so now like you just have to make the effort to see people, otherwise you won't see them. The best thing about having your own place is you can get people to come over, although then you have to tidy. Number 3 is to get human contact somehow every day. If you work, then that is great. Hopefully you're interacting with humans in your day. If you don't work, or if you work for yourself like me, I don't leave my house unless it's to walk my dog, which we'll speak about dogs and pets in a minute. I have to walk her every day, but sometimes that'll even be in the evening and I won't come across anyone. So my daily human interaction could be with the postman, or maybe like seeing other dog walkers out on my dog walk. But we need human contact. Humans are not designed to live the way we do. We need like community somehow, and so living by yourself can make you feel very isolated from said community. So whether this is like that you have a hobby that you go out and do, or if you're getting contact just from someone in the supermarket. Number 4 is meal prep. So when you're cooking for yourself, it can seem like so much effort to just turn the oven on to make one meal. So this is why I always either bulk cook or meal prep. And this has taken me a long time and lots of money spent on lunch, etc. later to realize that meal prep is the best. And the thing is, like, I always thought, oh, I don't have time to meal prep, but you do. Like, it's just taking the time to learn to make something that you can do on autopilot. So for me, every Sunday evening I will prep my lunches for that week and sometimes my breakfast, and kind of roughly plan what I'm going to have in the evenings, and then I'll only allow myself one weekly shop. And I've started shopping at Aldi because it's a lot cheaper, even though I hate it. Like, just as for my anxiety, it's not good, but I go to challenge my anxiety. Next tip is if you can, get a pet, because I speak about living alone, but I don't live alone. I think if I lived alone, it would be a whole different story. But I have my dog Lola. Lola is literally my child. She is the love of my life. And she looks so happy to be on camera right now. I'm so sorry, my baby. But honestly, if you can, like, if the place that you're staying allows, get a pet. Or at least get on Borrow My Doggy and borrow a doggy. I cannot even tell you how good a pet is for living by yourself with a mental illness. Then you don't feel so alone. She snuggles on the sofa with me and watches Netflix. Like, she stays in my bed with me. She doesn't like sleeping in her own bed. Number 6 is to get comfortable being by yourself. If you live by yourself, you've either been forced to be in that situation like me, or you kind of want to be independent anyway. I thought I was comfortable with being by myself, but living by myself and working by myself, I have a lot of time to think, essentially overthink and be overly critical of myself. Recently, like these last 5 months, being single, being by myself, it's really opened my eyes into me and how I am. I have just really been trying to be with myself in the present moment, because to not let that negative self-talk and, you know, the ego affect me, I have to be in the present moment. I really just had this realization that I was not living my life in the present moment, and I was constantly worrying about the future or the past. That's anxiety for you, and I couldn't help it because that's the way that I had been conditioned to think. It's taken me to this stage in my life to really actually sit back and observe these thoughts that I'm having towards myself every single day. So I think what is really important when you do live by yourself is finding things that you enjoy just being in the moment doing. So for me, like, 2 things I really don't like doing: the washing up and the ironing. I have really honestly found it therapeutic to put on some music and do the washing up, and put on a Netflix series and do the ironing. And trust me, your mindset and being able to be by yourself will improve so much if you just try and be in the present moment with whatever task you're doing. And the final tip is to think about the positives. If it's in my scenario where I live like fully by myself, this might not apply if you're, say, like living in a house with multiple other people or at uni. But the thing is, like, what I really like is that if I'm struggling with my mental health, there's no one, or I guess, I don't know, this is a positive out of a negative. There's no one to notice, which is not necessarily actually a bad thing, to be honest, because I don't have to face anyone. And, you know, if I've been in my pajamas for 3 days straight, there's no one to question me on that and to make me feel guilty. There's no one I have to try and avoid on my way to the kitchen. I don't have to show up for anyone but myself. And if I'm in a dip, then I don't have to worry about other unnecessary things, if that makes sense. So I, you know, if whatever mood I want to be in, I can be in that mood. I really hope that these tips have helped, because I completely get it. Like, when your mental health declines, then like things can go to shit and bills can not be paid, and then, you know, it can be very easy to let things spiral. One of the things that I've learned is that I'll maybe let things spiral for a bit, but then you have to show up and you have to face things, because otherwise they're just gonna continue getting worse. And that is one of the really good things that living by myself has taught me. So I hope that my knowledge and my learnings have helped you guys in some way. Living alone can be tricky, but it can also be amazing, and I wouldn't change it for the world. So do let me know in the comments below where you are, if you are in this situation, if you would like to live alone but you're scared, like whatever it is. I'd love to chat to you guys in the comments. So I will see you in next week's video, and until then, goodbye.